Hurricane Helene has made landfall in Florida as a powerful Category 4 storm, and we are starting to get reports of deaths here and there in Florida. I'm Tracy Hutchins.
And I'm Blair Miller. We have now learned that 2 people are dead after a possible tornado hit in South Georgia. That is according to the sheriff's office in Wheeler County. Also right now, there's currently a flash flood warning for parts of our area.
Let's check in with First Alert meteorologist Fred Campagna. And Fred, this warning will be in effect for the next few hours.
And we are really in a weather disaster at this point, and the center of the hurricane is still a couple hundred miles away from us. So we haven't even had the wind part of the storm, but this is already an unfolding weather disaster. A considerable flash flood warning for the metro area. It is dangerous. You may have gotten that loud alert on your phone from the National Weather Service because it is what is classified as a considerable threat, and there's flash flooding taking place west of Atlanta, south of Atlanta, heavy bands of rain coming in. And look at just some of the flash flood reports that have come in inside and around the perimeter in the last couple of hours. And there's not a lot of let up in the rain. We're seeing really high rainfall rates. Now, as we move a couple hundred miles to the south, there is Hurricane Helene right now moving inland. It has passed Perry, Florida. Winds gusted well over 100 miles an hour as it made landfall, and it will be crossing into Georgia within about the next hour or so. Valdosta is about to get really crushed by this storm, with the eye wall going right over the city of Valdosta. So how are things going to change for us overnight tonight? Well, we're going to continue to see waves of rain coming over our area. Some places, including Hartsfield, Jackson, have already had over 7 inches of rain in the last couple of days, and you may get several more inches as this storm passes by. By early tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning, the center of the storm is passing east of Atlanta, and there's still some heavy rain, and our strongest winds are going to come through Atlanta early tomorrow morning, not too far from around sunrise. It'll stay windy during the day tomorrow, but the peak winds will certainly happen early in the day. Right now, that wind's starting to pick up in Athens, and I think out in Athens, east of Atlanta, that's where we're going to have some of the worst conditions overall. 2 o'clock in the morning, winds gusting over 40 miles per hour out that way. Still not much wind around the metro until late tonight. As we go into 4 o'clock in the morning, 60 mile per hour gusts, 60 mile per hour gusts as well for Eatonton. Notice in Atlanta, we're talking about 25, 30, maybe some 40 mile per hour gusts and some rain bands coming through, but still late tonight, not finding those peak wind gusts. Very windy still at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning east of Atlanta. There you start to see some of those stronger gusts, 50 near 60 miles per hour around the metro. These will be west southwesterly winds. This will be east northeasterly winds here, and some southeasterly winds as well as the storm lifts to the north, and it stays really windy in East Georgia. The lion's share of the damage should likely happen east of Atlanta as far as the winds are concerned, because that's where the strongest winds are going to be. The red shading on here, the orange shading, that indicates moderate to high power outage risk rate with those kind of winds that'll be coming through. So we are seeing some isolated outages right now, but we are going to see widespread outages by late tonight and tomorrow morning. And the winds still between about 30 and 40 miles per hour noon tomorrow as the storm finally lifts to the north. Tracy and Blair?
Well, Fred, of course, we've gotten so much rain, it's flooding roadways across the metro, leaving some vehicles stranded.
Yeah, we've seen this across the area. Let's get to Atlanta News First reporter Blake Devine, who joins us live along Beaufort Highway in DeKalb County. And part of this is shut down, Blake?
Well, it looks as though we may have lost Blake. We're going to get back to him in just a minute. But in the meantime, remember, you can count on Atlanta News First as Hurricane Helene makes its way across our area. If you lose power, you can still watch us on the Atlanta News First weather app. And we are counting on you to send us pictures and videos of the storm, of the activity and the damage. If you can do that safely, please do not leave your home and take pictures if it is not safe for you to go outside with the heavy winds and rain as well. If you are able to take pictures from your window even, possibly, you can send them straight to the number on your screen, 470-777-WANF.
For now, we're going to send you back to regular programming on Atlanta News First. Our live First Alert weather coverage of Hurricane Helene continues now on ANF Plus, which you can stream live on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and on your smartphones.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on ANF Plus. Hurricane Helene has made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 storm, and we're starting to get reports of deaths there in Florida as well as here in Georgia. I'm Tracy Hutchins.
And I'm Blair Miller. We have learned that 2 people are dead after a possible tornado hit in South Georgia. That's according to the Sheriff's Office in Wheeler County. And right now, there's currently a flash flood warning that we're seeing in parts of our area.
Let's check in with First Alert meteorologist Fred Campagna. And Fred, this warning will be in effect over the next few hours.
Unfortunately, that is the case probably through the rest of tonight into early tomorrow, Tracy. And it is what is called a considerable flash flood warning that we have right now, right around the perimeter. So the heart of the metro is where we have some of the heaviest rain at this point. But you can see that all of our area is covered up in some rain. So I'm joined by First Alert meteorologist Patrick Pete, who's in charge of our radar here. So we're going to zoom in and get a closer look at just how heavy the rain is right now in the metro. It is really pouring down in Atlanta, Midtown, downtown area. If we can get in a little bit closer here, Patrick, and possibly get an idea of the rainfall rates that we're seeing right now, because this is tropical rain that's starting to fall, and our rainfall rate is several inches per hour. Now this band is moving to the west, but you can see that in the purple shading on here, 4.5 inches per hour, 2 inch per hour, 3 inch per hour in areas that have already seen 6, 7, now approaching 8 inches of rain. So Patrick, we have seen a record amount of rain so far today in the Atlanta metro area with what has come down as what's out ahead of Helene, really. Now we're starting to get into some of that, but we're going to see some stronger rain bands coming through in the next several hours that are going to also lead to increased winds. So much of the rain that we've seen so far is what is called a predecessor rain event, right? So this is the system that is drawing Helene closer to us that is allowing for this rain to happen. It's a trough in the atmosphere. Look at all those flood reports that we've seen. And then as we go to the south, the eye of the storm right now is moving through the panhandle of Florida, and it's moving pretty quickly right now at 24 miles an hour. It'll cross the state of Georgia overnight into early tomorrow, moving between about 25 and 30 miles per hour. And once we go through these overnight hours, we'll continue to see that really heavy rain that'll be coming down our way. So the First Alert radar is going to be absolutely lit up for us during the overnight hours into early tomorrow. So 8 o'clock in the morning, still have some rain coming down, mainly north of I-20, south of I-20. We will likely at that point start to see the rain coming to somewhat of an end. So I want to check in with First Alert meteorologist Patrick Pete. He's over in our weather center. And Patrick, the winds.
The winds.
To this point, we haven't really seen them, but that's going to be changing here.
Yeah, Fred, these winds are going to gradually start to build up as we head through the overnight hours. I know a lot of folks are wondering, you talked about the rain, and we're seeing the rain. That's verifying. What about the winds? Well, the winds were always expected to be the late arrivals to the party. And you can see the winds on the eastern side of the state already starting to gust. Keep in mind, folks to the south have been getting rain. It's been lifting northward, but the winds have been picking up in the easternmost part of our state, and we expect those numbers to continue to increase. That's the areas we're going to be watching for some of the highest wind gusts. Right now, 28 miles per hour wind gusts in Athens, 21 in Covington, 26 in Gainesville, 21 in Blairsville. Here's what you could expect as we head through the overnight hours. For those winds to gradually start to pick up elsewhere from the east towards the west. We expect those winds that are roughly sustained at about 10, 12 miles per hour here in Atlanta right now to gradually start to build, and we'll start to see those gusts come in 20, 25 miles per hour over the course of the next couple of hours. But as we get closer to the 3 o'clock hour, those gusts will increase, and we expect most of us near the city of Atlanta to see our peak gusts somewhere around the 3, 4, 5 o'clock time frame and increasing towards 6. So mid-50s is what we can expect for some areas, and then those numbers, while going down, still going to be in a very breezy category as we head through the evening hours. The rain the wind. That's both going to combine for the potential for there to be power outages. And of course, that is front of mind for everybody. We've already shown you several reports of some trees down. We've seen that across portions of southern Georgia, and that threat will only increase as Helene starts to lift northward, Fred.
Yeah, and Patrick, for anyone who is just joining us here on ANF Plus, I want to walk through again the overnight hours, because this is what a lot of people are concerned about. When will the winds pick up where I live, and how strong are they going to get? And if you live east of Atlanta, from Eatonton to Athens up to Gainesville and Helene, it looks to me like you're going to have the worst wind conditions from this storm. By 4 o'clock in the morning, we may be seeing winds between about 50 and 60 miles per hour in that corridor. They'll be coming in out of the east generally, east-southeast, east, a little bit of east-northeast as well as the storm approaches. Still not a ton of wind, but peak gusts in the 20 to 40 mile per hour range around the metro at that time. By 6 o'clock in the morning, this approximates the center of the storm right here. The official track from the National Hurricane Center is west of Athens, between Atlanta and Athens. We all along have been thinking that it is going to be very close to Athens, if not slightly east of the city. But notice how strong the winds are getting at that point. And I think the best chance for strong, damaging winds in the Atlanta metro area is around 7 o'clock in the morning. So say 6:30 to 8:30 or so in the morning. That's when we're going to see gusts between about 50 and 60 miles per hour, as Patrick was just talking about. The other thing that we're concerned about, and we're going to continue to monitor this very closely for you, is the potential for spin-up tornadoes on the eastern side of the storm. And I can tell you that within the last hour, there have been some tornado warnings just to the south of our area. So if you live in Jasper, Putnam counties, Greene, Oglethorpe, even up into Clark, Oconee counties, you need to be on high alert. You need to keep your phone on and charged overnight, because you may eventually get a tornado warning in your area. And believe me, if we get any tornado warnings, we are going to definitely be breaking in and keeping you updated on Atlanta News First. Right now, let's go back over to Patrick to get a look at some of the updated rainfall totals that we've seen over the last couple of days. Patrick.
Yeah, Fred, the power of First Alert Radar is just really imminent here, because I'm in the chat right now having a conversation with Lamar County officials. We actually have a spotter network all across the state, and they actually measure on site in different locations how much rain we see. And obviously First Alert Radar is amazing, and it tells us a very good estimate of how much rain is falling. But whenever we can actually compare that to what we see on the ground, it's really nice to see how those numbers line up. And right now in Lamar County, our First Alert Radar is estimating 8.7 inches of rain across parts of that county over the course of the last 2 days. That actual observation, 8.8. So we're right on with First Alert Radar, and it has given us a really good observation of what has been happening over the course of the past 2 days. You can see that folks that are in Henry County, north of McDonough, just shy of 8 inches near Buckhead. So it has just been a very wet situation. Obviously, that is part of our story. But Fred, I do think that we can't understate the potential for flooding with numbers like this.
Can't overstate it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's catastrophic or borderline catastrophic flooding that's possible. I was looking at some of the gauges for Peachtree Creek, and there are parts of Peachtree Creek right now that are near record levels already, with several inches of rain to come during the overnight hours. So again, phone on the charger, phone not on mute during the overnight hours in order to stay safe, because it's flash flooding is considerable right now in Atlanta. It could be upgraded from that in some areas as the rain continues to fall. I want to check in with Tracy and Blair again to get the latest on what is happening from the news angle of this story so far.
You know, Fred, you and Patrick are talking about the rain that's inundating the metro area. Well, that's certainly causing flooding along our roadways, leaving some vehicles stranded in the metro.
Yeah, we have Atlanta News First reporter Blake Devine, who's along Beaufort Highway in DeKalb County. And Blake, we've been talking with you throughout the night, but part of this road is shut down. It looks pretty busy where you are.
Blair and Tracy, we're here in Brookhaven where we've watched several cars get stuck in the road. As I'm talking, I'm going to show you, take a look at this white van. It got stuck and it actually just got towed as we were talking on the air. But you see those crews over there, they have been doing their best to help people. Just about an hour or so ago, I saw a red sedan get stuck. Several people pushed it up a hill. They were able to get it out of there. What we're looking at is a very dark area. That's because the traffic lights are out along Curtis Drive and Buford Highway northbound. Both drivers we saw which got stuck tried to cross through these floodwaters, and obviously Mother Nature had a different plan in place for those folks. But police are currently considering shutting down this entire intersection. We're between Curtis Drive and Buford Highway. I want to re-emphasize that again as water continues to climb with several streetlights down in the area. And all this is a reminder that if you can, please stay off the roads at this time and place because it's very dangerous. There's lots of water, and obviously it's very dark in certain areas where there are no traffic signals. For now, reporting live in Brookhaven, Blake Devine, Atlanta News First.
Blake, thank you. As they say, turn around, don't drown. You cannot judge just how deep that water can be on the roadway. We do have some new video in. It shows flooding along Woodward Way in northwest Atlanta. This is right around the Peachtree Creek area. You heard our meteorologist talk about it earlier. This area always floods when we get heavy rains. And you could barely see there where the water ends there and the road begins.
How deceiving that can
Look
be.
at that. You have a line down the middle of the roadway there, and, you know, heaven forbid anyone try to drive down the road.
That's why we're seeing some of those problems on the roads like that. And at this hour, you have travelers in a holding pattern because of this hurricane.
Well, people hoping to fly out of Atlanta's airport, keeping they are on the forecast, but it's not looking good. Atlanta News First, Carly Barnett joins us here in the studio.
Yeah, and Carly, my husband just landed about 5-10 minutes ago. He said it sounds like it was pretty dicey coming in, but as for tomorrow, it's not clear if the airport's going to be officially open or not, right?
Well, Tracy, Blair, at this point, we don't know that. We know it's late at night, but we also know people are planning ahead for their Friday and the rest of their weekend. But based on what we're seeing so far, your flight is very likely to be delayed or canceled. Blair, your husband got very lucky there. We have some live pictures showing Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. You can barely see it because of the water on the camera. Atlanta-based Delta Airlines cites wind as the main concern here. Now, at last check of FlightAware, 608 flights have been delayed. 213 have been canceled just today in the last 24 hours at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Now, let's get a little closer to the ground. Power outages, of course, remaining a big concern across the whole state. I just looked, more than 46,000 customers are without power, and of those, 32,000 are Georgia Power customers. Georgia Power says to be prepared for your electricity to go out.
We do experience hurricanes in this state. Often it's a regional impact, but this is going to impact everybody, and so I really hope that everybody watching is preparing their family to be able to go a few days without some power.
And if you have our Atlanta News First app, you just received that push alert talking about the power outages in our area. And remember, you can always send us your photos and videos. Just make sure to do so safely. Blair, Tracy?
Carly, thank you. And of course, you can count on Atlanta News First as Hurricane Helene continues to make its way across Georgia. If you lose power, you can still watch us on the Atlanta News First weather app. And we're counting on you, as Carly mentioned, to send us pictures and videos of the storm if you can safely do it. Text them straight to the number on your screen, 470-777 WANF.
For now, we are going to send it back to our regular programming on Atlanta News First, and our live First Alert weather coverage will be continuing for you all here on ANF Plus at 1 a.m., and you'll be able to stream this live on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and on your smartphones. But we're going to turn it now back over to our regular programming.